Hi there, it's Jen with Hidden River Creative, and today I'm going to be making another tag using the Spellbinders 13 Days of Craftoween 2025 Advent Calendar. Today I'm going to be using the day 7 dies to make this tag. So if you want to see how I made this tag, stay tuned. So here we have the day 7 dies, which is some books and some little candles. Super cute. I love this one. I'm going to also pull in some Altenew fresh dye ink and Firebrick, Acai berry, Teal Tempest, Maple Yellow, and Morning Frost. And also pure graphite. So I'm going to take my pure graphite and color these candles really quickly, just putting a lot of ink down. And I'm not going to take any time to shade or anything. I just want these to be black. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just continuing to put black down until I'm happy with how it looks. And then I'm going to bring in my reverse tweezers, which are amazing. If you don't have reverse tweezers, definitely get some. For the pages, I'm using Morning Frost. You could just leave it white, but I just wanted a different look. I wanted it to look kind of aged, so that's what I did. Now I'm coming in with Firebrick to color the actual book layer, and I'm going to make the top left corner a little bit darker than the rest of the book just to create some shadow and some shading. And really, depending on how you decide to stack your books, you don't really need to worry about shading. But I know that this one is going to be the book that's sitting on top, so that's why I did it that way. For my next book, I'm going to use Acai berry, which is kind of like a winey purplish color. So I'm just going to put that all over this book. And like I said, this one is going to be the bottom book, so I didn't really worry about any shading on that one. And this top piece here is actually a backer for the spine of the orange book. And I decided I wanted to use Teal Tempest on that. And I'm also coloring my banner with Teal Tempest, and it's going to look horrible. Absolute trash. But I'm like, oh, maybe it'll dry back. I'll just set it to the side. Spoiler alert, it won't dry back, but you'll see what we do. Next, I'm coloring my little candle flames. They come in 3 pieces. So there's that first piece, which I colored in Firebrick. This next piece, which is really just the wick. So I used my leftover pure graphite on that. And then this last piece here is another piece of the flame, which I am using maple yellow on. And then you just layer those up, which you'll see in a moment. For my tag, I am once again using some pattern paper. I'm going to put this pattern paper piece on top of my tag bottom, which is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110-pound cardstock. And then I'm going to punch a hole in that and then place an eyelet in with this punch tool, this Crop-A-Dile punch tool. So I'm just going to put that in, press it so the back is nice and adhered, and then that will be the base for my tag. So next I'm going to come in and just assemble all of my die cuts, and while you watch that, I'm just going to turn on some music. Now that all my die cuts are assembled, I am just trying to arrange them on my tag to get an idea of where I need to adhere everything down. And as you can see, my banner did not dry back well at all. You can't read the words. It's just terrible. So I cut another one and decided to do something a little different. So I'm taking some of my leftover ink from my Teal Tempest blending brush, and I'm just going around the edges of this banner, and then I'm going to bring in my ink pad so that I can darken up the ends here. So I'll darken up the ends of my banner, and then I'll go around the edges one more time just to make it a little bit darker. But as you can see, you can actually read the spellbound word now. So that looks much better. I'm still going to use the one that I created in the beginning, but I'm just going to put it on the back of this one a little bit at an offset, and that way I didn't really waste the banner. So there you have it. That looks quite nice. So now I'm just going to take this, I'm going to take the other banner, and I'm going to adhere them together with some liquid glue. Just trying to get an idea of what that's going to look like. Perfect. So like I said, using liquid glue to adhere these together, I'm going to adhere it a little offset at the bottom so you can see that darker banner peeking out from behind. And then I'm going to clean my glass mat because we all know I will ruin a project in a heartbeat by not paying attention. So let me just clean that up really quick. Those glass bottles, the one that I just had, you can get those from Amazon. I'll link them in the description box below the video. But I have one for water and one for alcohol, and I have them labeled so I know which is which. And I just keep those on my desk. It's very handy. So now I am just assembling my tag. Most everything I'm just going to adhere down with liquid glue, but these candles, since they're sitting on top of those books, I wanted to use a little bit of foam tape behind those, so I'm just using some of my Gina foam squares. I had to trim them down a little bit to put some behind the candle flames because I didn't want them just flying freely off my tag to be ripped off. So I'm putting some tiny little foam pieces on the back of those and struggling a little bit. And then I'll put some liquid glue on the bottom where they're going to be touching those books, and then I'll adhere them down to my tag. Like so. So cute. I love this die set. I love the books. I love the candles. And then I'm going to bring in my banner. And it's doubled up, so I'm just going to use some liquid glue and adhere that down to my tag. Make sure it's straight. And voila. Now I'm going to bring in some little enamel dots. These are some that I've had on hand for a while. I believe they were from Stampin' Up! Way back in the day. So I am just going to place these around my tag, and as you'll see in a moment, I'm going to overthink it quite a bit, as I do. But that's okay. It all works out in the end. Whenever I am using any sort of embellishment, I like to try to put them down in odd numbers. So either 3 or 5. A lot of times I end up doing 5. Like I'll do a couple pairs and then one just off on its own somewhere. But I really struggled with this to figure out where I wanted to put these. So I kept pulling them up, putting them down again. I don't know. I just couldn't decide where they needed to go. So, and there's a couple different sizes. So I usually like to pair a larger embellishment with a smaller one. So I had to bring mine back in. I'm like, oh, yeah, I think that looks good. Probably need a smaller one up there with the other one. So I'll grab a tiny one, put it there, and then I like that much better. So now I'm bringing in my ribbon. All of my ribbon is just a mixture of some retired ribbon from Stampin' Up and then some that I have gotten from Michael's over the years. So I just grabbed some in some coordinating colors for my tag, and I think I got 5. Yeah, I got 5. So I'm just feeding those through using my tweezers to help me a little bit there. And then once I feed them all through, I'll tie them off in a knot. In hindsight, I probably should have kept one of the strands out and just used that to tie it around the other strands for a knot, but it's fine. It doesn't really matter. Do whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to tie this off now. And those eyelets really help when you are trying to feed ribbon through paper and tie it off, because you could very easily rip your tag. So I definitely recommend getting some eyelets. And there's the tag. So cute. I love this set. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, and stay tuned for some more tags. Thank you all so much for watching.